Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you're having a great day. Welcome to another Kerfuffle showcase, and I am delighted to have Sam from HomeSearch on. Sam, look at that military haircuts. You've come here to mock me, haven't you? Haven't you with that? That's special.
I was just saying to you off air that we had a board meeting last night. My wife said to me on Tuesday, we just moved to Putney, and we are now like those typical smug Southwest London people that walk around with our like artisan coffee and our like empty pram that we're preparing for. And yeah, she's like, there's a barber at the end of our block, Sam, and I've not had a haircut since the start of lockdown. And she's like, there's a reason that there's a barber at the end of our block. And so I thought, if we're doing this today, had a relatively important day yesterday, I may as well try and look 15 years old again. So the man bun is gone. My team doesn't take the piss out of me in the mornings anymore. But yeah, I'm back to really fresh faced.
But you're solving that issue, because as you just made about people taking the piss out of you. So literally, I know you are. Maybe if the interview goes badly, you're going to do that thing, because your missus is literally just about to go into hospital with your new baby on the way, isn't it?
I hope not literally. We got a couple of months to go, so yeah, it's
okay, that really would be. Well, just remember, if it does happen, you've got to call it Kerfuffle. So there,
we'll make you. I don't know if you've ever watched. There's a really funny show called The League, and it's like about fantasy NFL. If you get a chance to illegally,
it's amazing.
Yeah. And so they do like the giveaway stuff, and one of them gives away the naming rights to their son, so he gets first pick in their draft. So if this goes really well, we'll figure something out, right?
Yeah, well, I think you've just given me a few different extra thoughts there. I've been toying with around, do I sponsor people for getting Kerfuffle tattoos? How edgy do I want to go with this sort of stuff? So
yeah.
We'll leave it. Anyway, this isn't about me, which is obviously one of the dangers of me talking on my own show. Sam, obviously everyone knows you from HomeSearch. You're a real, I was going to say up and coming, but that's not doing you justice enough. You've been here and done it for a while now. The incredibly popular HomeSearch tool was out last year, and obviously you've been in the press again, just hugely here. You seem to have an unprecedented amount of support from agents. Just before we kick into the main things, why do you think that is? Why do you think you do engender such a natural likability?
Thank you.
By the way, and you couldn't have an easier question to start off with there.
Yeah, thank you. Butter my own bread. I don't know is the easy answer. I kind of just do what there's some good suppliers in Australia who bothered to ask me what I wanted when I was an agent, and so I kind of just thought there's probably something in that, and we've gone about that. The last 4 months has been really interesting, because we've sort of gone from a business where we were pretty happy and we were hitting our goals, and then we made a decision to try and make it something quite cool and big, and that came with its own set of risks. But the 2.5 years worth of work that we put in beforehand, I think, has allowed us to do that. It's sort of there was a level of trust that we'd earned from not being full of shit since 2018. This literally should be written on the wall somewhere. That people are like, okay, these guys aren't going to screw us over. They try and have good ideas. Yeah, they make mistakes. They're not perfect, but invariably we get it right eventually. And so that's probably put us in good stead. We, like, cliche as it sounds, we do listen. Like, I have training with my team every week. We hire people based on our values. The old thing of hire on attitude, train on skill. The skill is just caring, giving a crap, figuring out what the problem is. If we solve it already, showing them in a really empathetic and articulate way that we solve the problem. And if we don't, going, shit, that's a good idea. And then figuring out how quickly we can build something that does solve that problem. So I don't think it's rocket science. And I think a lot of companies now, whether they've seen what we do or whether they've just read the same books, a lot of this stuff isn't original thinking. It's just applying what's worked historically, right? So are starting to do that, and that's only a good thing for agents, for the public, for the industry. So yeah, it's been a fun ride. Hopefully it continues for a while longer.
Isn't it funny though, that as you said, they're just trying to do the right thing, trying to listen to your clients, and I couldn't agree with you more. And yet, isn't it amazing how few companies seem to just be able to? There really isn't any sort of Dan Brown hidden algorithm or secret, is there?
Yeah.
Rather than just putting the customer comes first on the wall, just actually practice it.
Yeah. When I started doing this, I was a PA for a couple of years, and because I didn't know anything about real estate and I didn't know anything about properties or anything like that, my boss, and credit to him, he just sort of said like, right, here's a phone list. He's like, figure out what these people need. And I was like, well, don't they want to sell their house? And he's like, well, if they don't want to sell their house, figure out what else we can provide them. And so that gave me a really good grounding to just be like disciplined in my questioning.
Yeah.
And then you figure it out from there. Then you don't have to sell someone shit. You just deliver what they need, deliver what they want. And then business becomes simple, not easy, because there's challenges every day. But one of the things one of the sort of values that we have in our business is that like success to us looks like having better problems than everybody else. Because you're never not going to be without your problems, right? But if you've got good problems or you're creating your own shit, it's better than having it lumped on you. Am I allowed to swear?
No, of course you are. This is
sweet.
I think some people have referred to this as the Kerfuffle podcast or webinar. So yes, you are. It all gets bleeped out anyway or ignored. You got a big fan already. Here he is, big fan of the show, Mr. Byford. Morning, you beautiful beast. Straight back at you there, Mr. Byford. And he says, here you are, just to, again, continue the fluffing, because you're a genuine, honest guy who tells it how it is, does what he says, and he's an amazing communicator. I'm assuming that's for...
He's copied and pasted that from my WhatsApp. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I'm assuming that's not about me, Christian, but don't worry. There'll be time for that later on. Okay, mate, but let's give us an overview of HomeSearch. Started up, what you were doing then, and how that's evolved over this year, if you don't mind.
Right. Okay. So let's go way back to the start, which is
an origin story.
Yeah, genuinely, this is like Peter Parker getting bit by the spider, right? So Spider-Man is cool. We're not there. We're not Tony Stark or Bruce Wayne yet. So when I came, yeah, you might be actually. When I got to England, I met and I forgive anybody who's watching this has heard this story before, but it's the genuine truth about where my side of HomeSearch came from. Giles is a different story, but he's actually working and I'm here, so you're getting mine. My first day of real estate in the UK was like exciting, but then kind of weird and deflating at the same time. I walked into this office, I thought, right, if I'm going to make it as an agent in London, I have a pretty reasonable idea on how to talk to people, but I've got to understand the market. I was working in Little Venice, like Maida Vale. It's like the Goldilocks zone of London, where like wealthy people and normal people buy houses, so you can have good conversations. And I just sort of said to my boss then, I was like, how do I learn about this area? And he pointed me at the sales drawers in our office. And he's like, that's everything we've ever sold or let in this office since it's been open. It's all you're going to need. And I was like, that's pretty cool. I opened it and there wasn't many in there. I was like, how long has the office been open? And he said, 4 years. And there was like 75. Hey, Sean.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Good, man. Hello, how you doing? We got the same haircut. See, we coordinated.
Yeah, this is starting to look like a bit of a cult, and I did say cult. Sean, how you doing? We're just hearing the origin story of Sam here. So thank you very much for joining us. Obviously, there we're gonna come to you in a second. If we can just finish his origin story, and then we'll want to hear it straight from the horse's mouth, Sean.
Yeah, sure. Carry on.
Amazing.
Right. So I was immediately like dejected that I had to say I don't know to everybody that spoke to me. I didn't know what lower ground floor was. I didn't know what leasehold was. Nothing really made sense to me. And so there was nowhere other than Lonres, which was central London, but it was only what agents had put on Lonres, and it was only really prime central London of those agencies willing to split fees. We talk about MLS; they've sort of been doing it for a long time, and I think a lot of people in the country don't realise that, and they have a good service. But I was like, there should be somewhere where I can home search an address, and I can talk to somebody about it, whether I'm pretending to genuinely understand it or not. I should be able to communicate about it. So 2 years, I did really well there. Then I got sort of frustrated because I didn't want to be a manager. I didn't want to get paid 15% commissions because it was like shit money as far as I was concerned. But that's a conversation for another time. And Sean, we can talk about that for hours, I reckon. So I quit my job and I sat around and went to the pub in the afternoons on weekdays and talked to a few mates and just sort of figured out what I wanted to do with my life. And then I was having a beer with the guy who's now a head of design here. And I said, I want to build this like research service where you can type in any address anywhere and it pops up. And then you can do with it whatever you decide that you want to do. You can prospect with it. You can give somebody information on it. You can flick them a link where they can open up a version of it that looks like it's yours, but it's ours. And he goes, you should talk to my boss because he's had the same idea. And he bought a domain called HomeSearch for 60 quid last week.
Very good.
And so, yeah, that's when I met Giles. And he had a slightly different idea to me. He wanted it to be more of like a Bloomberg terminal. Very analytical, very data driven. And I was just like, I don't understand that. And if I don't understand it, there's a lot of people that aren't. Like, I'm genuinely the dumbest person in our business, but I'm fortunate enough that I think that I have a relatively strong understanding of our industry. So I took numbers and applied it and gave it context and gave it meaning. One of the things, again, not to talk about what we have written on our walls, but we don't talk about like data, we talk about information. Because when it is information, you can do something with it. So it means something to somebody, it's relevant to somebody. You're not just looking at a sold date of like 3rd of September 2020. You're saying to somebody like, you sold at the end of lockdown, or you were on the market in that bubble, whatever it is. So it's really important that whatever we deliver on our screen, an agent can converse on. And that's really
point, that though, isn't it? We're not short on data, much as people perceive that as being the case. We're actually overcome with data in terms of what we are. Making use of that and turning that data into information is absolutely the holy grail, isn't it?
Massively. And it's why, and again, this is going to sound a strange thing to say given where we are today, but it's why we never ever wanted to develop HomeSearch for the public, because it's a bit like, so I've just moved house and I want to buy a fold out sofa because my mum is going to come and stay and there's no way she's going to be able to get a 70-year-old frame off the blow up mattress, right? And I want to sleep in when she gets up early in the morning. So we're looking for a fold out bed and I'm cheap. So I look on Amazon and I type in fold out bed on Amazon and there's 400 pages. So it's genuinely, it's like data and information overload. So with the amount of information that we have in HomeSearch, if we just gave that to the public, it would stop them from making decisions. They wouldn't be able to understand that context because they don't have that actual market knowledge. They're not having the 20 conversations a day with all the other buyers and sellers in the market like a good agent should be having to apply real meaning to what 2% growth month on month from Halifax or whatever it was that came out the other day actually means. So, and now that we do have, so skipping a few years, we had a pretty good year last year. We launched for free. We had 4,500 agents use us. We had a really good start to January where we decided we monetized, we hit our goals, then COVID happened. And then it presented us with an opportunity of actually, how can we improve our pro service? And we thought, actually, if we can flood all of the property data with live real-time, like public data. So if you search for your place, Whaley, within, not today, but within 6 months, if we keep growing the public side at the rate that we're growing, you'll be able to see that there's X number of active people looking for a home exactly like yours. An agent will be able to see that, not the public, because it's then up to an agent to say, well, guess what? Because I know this. They don't have to say because I use HomeSearch, I know this. It's your information. It's not ours. So we decided, with the help of a core group of individuals like Sean and others who've been following this like ridiculous journey that Giles and I were on for like 4 months, we were like, right, what do we want to show? Because it's not going to show all of it. And we picked out like the most important, relevant 20 to 25% of what's in the pro system and are displaying that to the public. And then we will have the listings as well. So that kind of, I think, surmises where we're at. And yeah, the public insight, that search activity will just help inform more accurate like evaluations based on activity, not just data. You shouldn't have to rely on what's happening in the past. It should be about what's happening in the present and what looks to in the future. And then as we grow, more information comes in, we can start to predict things and we can just be this incredible source of information for an entire profession and industry when we move into other areas.
There's that wonderful thing, Sam, at the moment, isn't there, where you're already providing greater transparency, and transparency can only ever help in terms of transactions and giving information to people. But actually as well, when you hit a certain sweet spot, and I have no idea if that's where you are now or in the future, actually the information starts providing its own benefit, doesn't it? It becomes its own, if you like, rolling stone.
That's the whole point, yeah.
That's really, really key then, because actually then it's self generating, and that's really interesting. Can we just call Sean in? Sean, obviously you're a big fan of these guys. When did you first come across HomeSearch, and what was it that attracted you to them?
You're on mute. That's a pound.
You're on mute.
Here we go. I'm back. Well spotted. Yeah, I think one of the first things we loved was the reports. The fact that, you know, what could take hours of time was done in literally minutes and looked so professional. When the client get you know, a post-market appraisal report about their property, it looked like we spent hours and hours producing this very professional report, and it made us look good. And that information was all there very quickly for us without doing too much. We can obviously personalize it, but once you put the information in about the company and yourself, and it's all there for future reports. And then the fact that when the client clicks on it, you know they've clicked on it, and you can see that they've clicked on it 3 times last night, and you think, well, it's worth giving them a call, you know, this morning to follow it up. So I love the reports. That was you know, really good, because everyone's sending out the best price guide, you know, and, you know, from Rightmove, and every other agent's doing the same. So that really was the first thing that I liked about the system.
And yeah, that's absolutely true, isn't it? There's no differential if you're just waving the Rightmove one. And of course, you famously have a number of brokers. You call them brokers, don't you? You're working
partner agents, you know.
Yeah.
So
by definition, you'll have some really, really proactive guys there, don't you? And do they all get a benefit from that, or are you reliant on those, on the best of those partner agents, obviously being proactive, or is it just a great tool for everybody?
So all our agents love it, and, you know, apart from the reports, a couple of other real benefits are when just searching for properties that are not on the market. Because one of the problems you'll come up against as an estate agent is the sellers, you know, you know, wants to sell, wants to move, but the biggest concern is we can't find anywhere to move to. You know, haven't seen anything. We don't want to sell ours and not have anything to move to. But by being able to search for their requirement, properties that are not on the market. So someone might say, I need a 4-bedroom, 2,000 square feet, £1 million, this postcode or this school catchment area or whatever. Oh, my printer's going. I don't know if you can hear that in the background. Sorry about that. So then you can target, you know, search for those type of properties, and it may well be there's 27 properties that are not on the market that suit their requirements, and you can write to those 27 people and help, you know. And the nice thing is when you're not writing a generic letter just to saying, oh, we've got a buyer for your house, because obviously estate agents just say that and do a whole street. But when you say we've got a buyer who's got it, you know, looking for a 2,000 square foot house, 4 bedrooms, £1 million with an acre of land, we know your property is suitable for them. If you're thinking about selling and would like to know how much they'd pay for your house, please get in contact with us. And we've had great success from that. You know, we've actually used the letters written to people who are not on the market, and because we've got a certain buyer with a certain criteria that there's nothing available for them. Often there are vendors, and, you know, we help them sell their house, and then we help them find somewhere. And you know, because it's a personalized letter and it's a genuine letter, we're getting great responses, and we've generated a number of listings from that. So it's not
so that blend of the traditional in terms of the print and the digital is a really important facet of the service for you, is it? From what it sounds like.
Totally. That, you know, being able to produce those letters and write to people, you know, and have all the information available, you know, touch of a button is brilliant, and we're getting great success from it.
It's ironic, isn't it? Because actually, going back to the good old days when I first came on the likes of Brief Your Market, and you spoke about it before. It still like feels like black magic to me when you see somebody's opened the email for 3 or 4 times. But your biggest problem these days is, of course, is having an email. In the old days was the golden ticket. You could get through to them. They had attention. It was perfect because obviously of the explosion and just fighting the bandwidth of attention in an inbox these days. What you have seen is actually the bounce back of digital mail. We've got a panel show digital versus traditional later on there. It really has opened up again, hasn't it, as a viable alternative there, because genuinely some people are actually surprised to get a letter. What's this these days? And if you can make it personable, as you said, and relevant, it still absolutely knocks it out the park, doesn't it?
Totally. We've had, I mean, I wanted to give you a couple of examples of some success we've had. I know one of our agents in Northampton has got 4 listings from writing to having a buyer looking for a particular type of property, writing to all the matching properties that came up.
Yeah.
Literally generated 4 listings from the letters that she sent out. And I'm not talking cheap, these are £1 million plus properties as well.
I love that. You know what? I'm taking back a well-worn phrase that has pissed off agents now for pretty much a decade, because, and I don't know if I was responsible for it, but it's that age-old one where every supplier comes to you and Sean and says, "Look, you just need one more listing for this to pay for this, Sean." And actually, what I realised is it's not the phrase itself it's the problem, it's being able to substantiate it. Because what's really important there is you've just said it yourself, is Sam and the team need to be able to actually explicitly say, this won't generate you just one listing, it will generate you multiple listings, and that's where your ROI. But there's almost like a reticence from suppliers because they feel like we're being a bit cheesy and going down that route now. So I think there does need to be a bit of a fight back in terms of, look, don't feel sad about saying it. Just have the evidence, like you just proved there, to be able to back it up.
Yeah, and I think one of those people who got the letter, who listed their property, actually said, "Can you do this for me?" And we had to do the same exercise for them, which generated another listing. And one of the listings got a relative. I think it was their parents who wanted to sell as well. So, but it was.
Those ones, I'm challenging a lot of our partners on the site at the moment, and it's great. It's genuinely, it's always lovely to hear from the agents like yourself, Sean, talking about it. But actually, we quite often forget to get the testimonial from the person who actually matters most. When you hear it from the consumer themselves, that really needs to be part of that whole rhetoric, part of the marketing mix, doesn't it? For companies like HomeSearch. That's really, really good to hear. In fact, you're backed up here as well by Rob Brady's just jumped in with an example himself. Thanks, Rob. He says, "I was helping my missus comp up a rental last." That sounds disgraceful. Sorry. On a recommendation, found out it had 3 acres of land from your platform, so a completely different rental value to just another 4-bed down the street. That's the crux, isn't it there, Sam? Your point about data versus information there.
Yeah, and being able to then, like, that becomes hyper relevant to Charlotte, because she can say, "Well, you guys have got 4 acres." No other agent's going to be saying that. They're just going to be like, 4 beds rent for this, Yeah. It's interesting, Sean, you said that the flow-on effect, where you got the referral. Like, we have about 8 different letter templates within there, and the one that's the most successful at the end is like, if you're not selling, give this letter to someone you know who is. And we have like people who email us all the time, and they were like, "We got it." Like, they literally handed their letter. They did as we told them to do through that. And so you've got to hold people's hands through it. Our job is to give something and then hold agents' hands through it. And we've done a lot of training. The reason why Sean's team has the results that they get is because they jump on all our training, and they listen, and they ask questions, and they follow up, and they actually, again, cheesy cliche, but they invest in the relationship with us like we did with them. Whereas there are other agents who are just like, "Cool, I'll just flog out letters and see what happens," or I'll just send reports when they're on valuations. They don't use them to send it to their CRM contacts every 6 months as a way of actually starting that conversation and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's cool to see those results happening. We aim for 10 times ROI. That's what we're going for. And the studies that we're collecting now and actually formalizing, we'll anonymize them because I think it's unfair to say this person did this and got this, or this brand did this, but they're all above that figure, which is cool.
One of the challenges, isn't it? I know from some of the very well established brands is they again almost get a bit nervous about being so bold with the ROI stats, because it does lay yourself open to some agents saying, well, we're not seeing anything like that, why aren't we seeing that? And that's where your point there talking about you needing the likes of Sean is, we had the same at Repeat in my day. People were saying, well, hang on a minute. You talk about some of these best agencies like Romans and Marsh & Parsons and whoever, using your system and using it so successfully, but we're not seeing these. Well, there is a reason for that. It is, it's about the effort you put into it, isn't it? So much of the time, sitting back and waiting for things to happen very rarely works. And I think that's one of the problems with tech, isn't it? There is that perception that, again, it's just going to sit back and just magically happen. But all of those kind of, even if you're looking at things like nurture campaigns in email marketing, have to be set up at some point to get them working effectively, don't they?
It's not even that they get set up right. If a nurture campaign works really well, it's actually going to generate you more work, let alone business, because someone's going to reply to it, and they're going to reply to it usually with a question. You can't automate your answer, So the point, and we again, funny saying that we use, but we talk about information, not automation, because it might take you a smidge longer, but you will send something more relevant. So your chances of getting a response, which is what it is all about. It's one thing to push the green button and send out 400 emails every week, and it's the same email and it just changes the first name and you hope for the best. Or you can send out 20 a day, 100 a week, and you're going to get 15 to 20% response, which is going to give you all the valuations you need if you're half decent at your job to convert. I work on, if you're reasonable and you want to keep your fee high, you'll get 40% of instructions. If you're good and you want to keep your fee high, you'll get 70%. It's always going to be 3 quits that go with Barry down the road,
Just to be clear, you weren't having a go at Kerfuffle there with our spam routines, were you? In terms of,
do you send me automated emails? I thought they were all to me.
Oh yeah, I just love yeah.
I just need my bubble hat and I'll stay on script, Simon. All right.
We're not quite at that time of the year yet. Give it a month and they'll be coming out again. Water will be chasing me for that bit of merch. But I think again, it's moving away from those vanity stats, isn't it? In terms of X thousand number of emails sent, this amount of people in your database. I almost said database there just because of where you're from, but the actually getting involved with the really important stuff, the engagement, leads. That the big fan of being able to actually deliver on those quality leads. Less is more, of course, is the case, and that's why I think Rob is probably continuing. This you'll be a bit lost with this, Sean, but we're having a big kind of walk off earlier, and Rob was just backed very firmly Team Sam, looking a sharp Sam, and then thank you, Christian Byfield. Not you, Whaley. You're a nightmare. So very, very good there. And again, some of the reviews just on your landing page on the site. Again, unsurprisingly, there, James Kendall, great agent, innovative property platform powered by great people. It's a formal love in here. Amounts of information is outstanding. Nothing as comprehensive and as well presented that is available in the marketplace. Plus, everyone there is an absolute pleasure to deal with. Not a problem. Attitude, love it. Neil White and Sir Brad. I'm starting to. What's making me a bit worried here is the only other company I've heard this from now is Moneypenny. They're just thoroughly nice. There's something that they must beat their staff or something. When the doors close. So I'm going to keep my eye on you, Sam. There's something going on. I'm on to you just to let you know.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sean, you're part of the inner cabal, as I would call it, from HomeSearch, where I think famously, Sam, as you said before, you don't just, you're not an ivory tower techies. You engage with the clients. Every time I've heard you developing the products. The portal, the portal that isn't a portal. I will get back to that. The data play. You engage, don't you, to minimize that time spent on it being a MVP, the minimum viable product. How important is that to you, Sean, to have a company like that listen to you and, on the face of it, demonstrably deliver to what you guys are saying?
Yeah, I would have to say, that we've had great support from some of the team. A lot of the people we've dealt with there are ex-estate agents, so they've talked about it from our perspective, this is what I used to do, or this is what I used to, so that was quite useful. And I would say that Sam and the team have also been proactive, contacting us and saying, look, let's provide you some training and a webinar, and that's been good. They're actually coming to us, not us saying, oh, we need some training. They've said, look, we'll set some up for you, which have been really good. And it's a bit like anything, it's out of sight, out of mind. So when their onboarding process and their follow-up process, and they want to make sure it works. And obviously, to make sure it works, you've got to make sure that your clients are using these tools, and they've been very proactive and supportive in that. And that's made a big difference, because otherwise it would be like everything else. We've got so many great tools, and a lot of them just get left and don't get used. It's all about using these tools. And I think that's made a big difference to how our success from it. So I appreciate that. I forgot what your question was now.
I just think it was how important it is to have companies listen to you in that respect and engage. I mean, look, we've got Mr. Byfield, who I think is one of the best proponents of that. I am claiming it actually just before Watkins does. I've been talking about this next evolution of prop tech, if you want to, where you had the established Leviathans in the early days. Your Solexes. You'll remember Solex, Sean. The old CRMs, the estate graphs, they evolved, and you started to see people like obviously Brief Your Market come in and other ones there. You then saw that real sort of this just over a short period of time, this wham bam thank you ma'am of prop tech, often very serving a real niche, but quite often as well being ivory tower techies. And if we're honest, many of them didn't deserve to see the light of day. I think what's really interesting about the scene we're in at the moment is people like Christian Byfield, Kai Wheatley with Area from there, your good self Sam, who lived and breathed it. The View Agent again, which is a portal sort of reputation things with Dominic Versace. These are companies that have grown out of real challenges that they've witnessed and experienced themselves. They've then teamed up, which I think is probably the point why it's possible now, easier than ever before, with the right technical backgrounds. And that's a really, really compelling combination, isn't it? Because you don't go through that, many years of being a beta product.
So it's the same with estate agents. Like if you look at the best agents, it's the people who had a poor experience before they got into the industry.
Yeah.
And they come in and they're like, okay, that person got paid what they thought on the surface was a considerable amount of money to be a bit of a dick. And the really good agents, like the ones who genuinely ask their clients what they need, and then they say, cool, you told me your problems, I can actually solve those problems. This is how I'm going to do it. Again, it comes back to what we were talking about before. It's really simple but not always easy business principles, and I think what's clear in our space in terms of the industry supplier space now is that's what agents have been needing, is that people were developing stuff that they thought would make them money, not that would solve problems. And then you probably will never make as much money as possible, because you're always going to have a battle trying to sell shit that no one really needs. Whereas if you focus on the problem first, then hopefully, touch wood, make a little bit of money.
Yeah.
As well,
Someone once said to me, they said, this is how to be successful in business. And they summarized it in one sentence. And this one sentence has stuck with me. And they said, find out what your customers want and then give it to them. I know it sounds very, very simple.
Wait a minute, let me note that down. You're absolutely right, Sean. Me and Sam were just talking about it. Don't overcomplicate these challenges, these slogans and mottos.
And I think sometimes companies are thinking, right, well, this is what customers want, this is what they want. And whereas Sam has gone through that consultation period of building this network and this system by getting putting the ideas out there, getting the feedback, and changing and adapting and improving, but most importantly, listening to what the customers want, as in agents, and having that knowledge from agents that are within the business, your business now, but also getting the feedback from customers. And then it's evolving. And then obviously there's the other customer, the people out there, the public, and I'm sure their feedback's going to be important. But That's what we've all got to do, isn't it? We've got to understand what our customers want, give that to them, and get that feedback and keep improving and changing. And that's why companies like Debenhams are suffering, and whereas Amazon and everything's online are doing really, really well. The world's changing, and we've got to change in all businesses with it.
And your change, Sam, in terms of, we'll come on to the question of is it a portal, isn't it a portal in a second. But why, just on the face of it, what was it that made you feel that you really needed to build the portal element of it?
There's two answers to that, and I'll say the very selfish answer first, which was there was an opportunity, and I think we'd be silly not to say that, because there was,
you do know this is the Kerfuffle showcase. We don't do honesty on here. This is
fair enough. So that's step one. There was an opportunity, and we saw it, and we thought, let's take it. Let's see what happens. Worst case scenario, we try something, it doesn't work. We go back to what we know we're very good at.
Yeah.
With a few property industry comments along the way of people saying like, oh, look, you tried something, you failed, suck shit. It is what it is. The second reason was that if we got it right, and I know that we haven't got it right yet, but I think we're on the right track. We will deliver something unique to a consumer. So we'll deliver a research tool for a consumer that they've not had before, that will give them the confidence to move, be it buy, sell, rent, or invest, which will then add liquidity to the market, which is what agents are looking for. And then separately to that, the activity that's generated on that will inform the pro system. So our valuations, our AVM will get tighter. When an agent's presenting an offer to if they take an offer from a buyer, it's a bit cheeky. They can be, look, there's actually 418 other people interested in exactly properties like this. And this listing itself has had this many activity and this many second viewings and third lookings and whatever. So your sub 20% offers, it's going to be a no. And actually, it's probably just going to be overtaken. So do you want to think about that? So when the public site really gains traction, and our like forecast, we were talking about forecasts before this, Sean, and about how I look at a spreadsheet and I'm like, I don't really understand that, but we'll figure it out. And our forecast for user numbers, if we continue, and we're growing at a stable rate week on week at the moment, and then we expect to hit a somewhat tipping point where people start talking about us towards middle of Q2 next year. Then you'll start seeing not only leads coming to agents, whether they are paying for us or not, great, but you'll start seeing all of that added information, data coming into the pro system to inform that better. So a seller wants to list their property with Sean for 2 million quid. Sean wants to list it at 1.75 because he knows he'll get close to 1.8 if he puts a competitive price on it. They can show them everything in an instant of all the 1.8s, all the 1.85s, all the 2 millions, all the buyer activity and or tenant activity compared to those, and ask them, like, where do you want to be? Do you want to be in the bracket where there's lots of competition and lots of people, or do you want to be up here where there's nothing comparable in terms of people or properties? That's all on you, because the conversations we're going to be having in 2 weeks are going to be really different. And again, so it's no longer what it is. You'll deliver that in a nice, empathetic, professional way. If you're just some geezer, it's like, well, where do you want to list your property? It's not going to work. Sorry about my accent. But we want to give that information to remove all of that doubt from the consumer's mind of why an agent's saying what they're saying. Because unfortunately, because there are some lesser agents out there that do blag it, and they ruin it for the rest of us. So then when one of Sean's agents or anyone else, a good agent, walks in and tells the truth, it's tainted. People are like, oh, why are you, what's your motive for telling me that? Is it the truth? Is it not? So if we can give them the information, impartial, from HomeSearch or from Newman's or Fine & Country, whoever it is, if they choose it to be, hopefully it takes that doubt away and just allows them to get on with it at the right price or making the right offer.
I think the other problem is, as well, as that the public are better informed than they have ever been in terms of that point again. Unfortunately, merge of data, and they aren't experts in that, so they have bias and they will take what they want to do from that. What systems like yours, the reporting element, will be able to give back actually is giving a bit more of that back to the agent, I would imagine, as well, to justify the position correctly.
Firstly, so if we even take it a step earlier in the journey, and if anyone, and I say this in like our onboarding to the public, if anyone can think of a better word for journey, let me know, because I think it's lame. But what we want to do is get agents having those conversations sooner. So it shouldn't be, someone shouldn't call or contact an estate agent, and this is relying on agents doing a bit more of the work as well, and we enable them to do that with our reports, with our information. But if a member of the public shouldn't call an agent the day that they want to sell their house and say, come round, because then it becomes a shit fight for them and for the agent. So one of the things that we do for our paying clients with the public site is we make sure, so you can list your stock for free, which means that if you've got that 4-bedroom in Northampton for 1.4, you can put that on with your marketing, with your floor plan, great. But you can then, through HomeSearch, list your agency against all the other properties that are not on the market, so that when somebody who's thinking about selling 6 months, 9 months, 1 year, 2 years before they're ready, goes on to HomeSearch. At the moment, they go on to Supplier, on the market, Rightmove, whatever it is, and they search for whatever their property is, and they see what's on the market. What we want to encourage is with HomeSearch is they search for their address, and they see all the properties exactly like theirs that are on the market. So it's instant. But they're also seeing what their property is, a range of what it's worth. And then the really cool part for our network agents is they see who are the agents in the area they should be talking to, literally. So you've listed Newman's against every off-market address in your area, so that it's maximizing, like genuinely maximizing the chances of an earlier call, email, valuation request, whatever it's going to be, appointment, relationship opportunity is sort of what we call them, right? And that's why we've picked up the following they had. When we sort of said to people all the time, listings are one thing, but let's park them. Let's talk about the other 28 million homes in the country, not just the 800 grand that are on the market. Why don't you put your company against all those? You know, because that's the real opportunity.
Rob's jumped in and suggested that route of exploration is another word for journey. I think you've got to keep looking, if I'm honest.
Yeah, cool.
He also came back, and I'm really struggling here to Sean. He came back and said, great words, Sean. Look at the red light district. I'll be honest, it's beyond my frame of reference now. I don't know what that is. I mean, fine. We'll take that as is. Sam, talk to me about why is it not a portal then? Is it a network? What is it? Why do you push back against that kind of portal description? Because my understanding was that was how originally you kind of described it, wasn't it? Or was that lumped on top of you from the beginning?
The moniker of Challenger Portal was given to us because there was a lot of, to use your phrase, there was a lot of noise.
Yeah.
And rightly so, because I think, again, we weren't the only ones to see an opportunity. There are people who are doing it before us. There are other good companies out there. We know them all well. They're all good people. Everyone's trying to do something slightly different. New players coming into the market as well. The main difference between us is, from where I'm sitting, whether an agent pays for it or not, a portal is listings. So it is instructions. It's where somebody goes and they type in Northampton for sale, 4 beds to 5 beds, 1 million to 1.5, and they get 118 results of varying different agencies, of whichever agents decide to list with that particular portal. That is a real estate portal. It's a classified, it's online newspaper. It's what
agree with that.
What HomeSearch is if we park that, it's a property search platform, right? Which is a phrase Robert May coined, and I said, can I borrow that? And he said, sure. I said, thank you. It's a search engine for whatever property information that you want to find. And we've got some evolution. So we developed this whole public site publicly. We did a webinar every week for 3.5 months where we showed designs and wireframes and asked for feedback. And it's what's allowed us to get the traction that we have now. But we didn't necessarily give away the whole keys to the castle because we didn't want to do some cool stuff that maybe wasn't going to be copied too quickly. So there's going to be some evolutions that come between now and Christmas as well. But the difference between us is if a consumer goes on HomeSearch, they can search for any address anywhere, and they can see it, whether it's on market, whether it's off market. They can then see how that address has evolved over time, when it got planning, is it listed, all of that headline information, how the values changed over time, what is a range of value that it is now, who are the best agents to be speaking to, what is its rental appraisal like, what's the neighborhood like in terms of who lives there, families, young professionals. Then you got the normal stuff that you would expect everywhere else, like schools and amenities and all that sort of stuff. Excuse me. So we've tried to centralize like property information. So that's sort of our goal, right? Is we want to build a really sort of proactive and connected market.
Yeah.
But then against all those off-market properties, we can attribute who might be a potential buyer or potential tenant for those homes based on the search activity in the portal side. So if you decide that you want to buy an investment property in London, Whaley, and you're looking for a 2-bedroom flat in Finsbury Park, and you're searching between 550 and 650, and you do that search a certain number of times, we'll attribute your buyer profile as a potential buyer for all the off-market 2 bedrooms in that price range everywhere, so that when that potential vendor comes along, they go 15 potential buyers, and there's a little button that says find out more, because everybody who's interested in doing anything wants to find out more, no matter where they are in their route of exploration. Thank you, Rob. They click the button, and it's just like there's 15 people who are looking for a property exactly like yours in that price range in this area. Do you want to talk to Newmans to find out more? So they can't talk to those people. They have to pick an agent. So suddenly the agent gets a valuation lead of 15 potential buyers in the same one. And then on the other side, if someone's just missed out on a property, we'll show them statistically what are the exact properties that are most likely to move next. And so if you look at like portal literature, which weirdly there is a lot of it, and they're all just like very dry PDFs, but you can get access to them. And one of the common threads, particularly in Oz, here and in Singapore's really interesting portal market if you've got like lockdown to read stuff, right? The like earlier searches that somebody does on a portal in Singapore is for all the off-market and sold stock, is where people spend their time early because they're getting a sense of value, which is sort of what reinforced, okay, people are going to home search their address to get a sense of value, right? But no one ever inquires. They never push, I want to contact this Singaporean agent, or they never, if Sean's got an under offer property, you're not getting many inquiries on them, certainly once they've been under offer for a while. So what happens in the UK, because they know they're not going to get under offer properties, is no one marks their shit as under offer. So then someone calls up and they say, I'm desperate to go and see 123 Smith Road. And the agent invariably says something along the lines of, you wouldn't believe it. It went under offer yesterday. I'm so sorry, but can I take your details and let you know when I get something else, And so there's a barrier in the journey, in the route of exploration. What HomeSearch will do is we identify all the other homes that match that are statistically most likely to sell in the next 6 months based on historical property trends, demographic information, everything like that. And so every under offer property, whether it's on a listing or every off market home, has a little button that says similar homes that might sell, find out more. And so a potential purchaser clicks that. We're figuring out how we do it with rentals yet. We're not quite there, so we don't have the button. They click that and it says, we've analysed the 4,500 2 beds in North London and we found the 123 that are most likely to sell in the next 6 months. Contact Sean to find out more. And so suddenly Sean gets a great buyer lead he otherwise wouldn't have gotten because it's under offer, and the addresses of 123 pieces of stock to send one of those letters that he says work so well. So for us, it's a research tool, a centralized place that you can find everything you need to know wherever you are in your journey for a consumer. And it's a prospecting tool for an agent to get on-market leads through the free portal. That is 10% of what we do. Or to leverage your brand against all the 98% of the stock that's not on the market, but is still being looked at by the people that live in those homes or want to move into those homes to get those leads that you wouldn't otherwise got. So we're trying to scale one inquiry to many.
It's changing it from being just almost passive, isn't it? Just, you are, it's an A to Z listing platform. Go there using really tight filters there, to being quite proactive in terms of returning properties that they ordinarily wouldn't have found.
Exactly. So our vision for the business is to create an open, proactive and connected marketplace. And we added for everyone on the end of that since we've decided to go to the public. It's open because we're transparent with our information. So I generally believe the more honest an agent can be, even if it's potentially not what a client who's very emotional about the decision they're making wants to hear, the better thing it is for that agent. Because that honesty will justify a high fee. That honesty will help justify the right offer if it comes in early. That honesty will help get them a recommendation at the end of it. Proactive in everything that we've just gone through. So one lead turns into many. And connected, when you connect with somebody on the site, there's a few other cool things that probably will say for anyone who wants to talk to me one-on-one about, but there's a lot of good connection that happens between public and pro as well. And so that's our vision. Like people say it all the time, like, what's your marketing spend? And how are you going to take down Rightmove? I don't want to take down Rightmove. I don't want to take down Zoop. I don't want to take down on the market. I'm not a portal. If somebody sees something on the market or sees something on Zoopla, they can check that it's not bullshit on HomeSearch. And that's really important to us. And then the agent on HomeSearch gets the lead, which is amazing.
Yeah, that's nice. And Sean, what's the what do you see of the potential of that element of what HomeSearch are doing now? An area you're excited that obviously you've been involved in the session, so it clearly is. But what does that offer an agent like you?
Yeah, for me, I like the fact that we can predict the people who are potentially going to sell in the next 6 to 12 months. I just think talking to people earlier on and building relationships with people is the key to that. And then obviously having that nurture journey. But yeah, I think identifying those people early on and then targeting them in various ways, whether that's a letter or social media marketing. But for me, it's all about knowing who's going to sell next in an area, and that's the exciting.
Stopping the fight of the whether it's a Rightmove lead or a Zoopla lead hits the inbox. Everyone jumps on top of that, don't they? They've got no sort of history with the potential vendor there, so they have to deliver a world-class market appraisal because, frankly, there is no trust there. What you're saying is, and what I do think the best agents are doing is give us that time to build consistency, to build trust, to show our expertise, and you are going to then be at the head of the queue, aren't you, at the time that appraisals? At least you're guaranteeing you're going to be one of the 2 or 3 that gets invited out, because let's face it, many are very poor at communicating in a personalised manner.
Yeah, totally good. If you can speak to people earlier on and get to know them earlier on, often it'll be the case that you're the only agent going out, and it's not a question about the fee. It's we just want to use you. So the earlier we can identify those people, the better.
Those conversations.
I'm not sure about that, Sam, by the way. One for the future. It would be fascinating. You would like to think, wouldn't you, based on that you would have more than other portals, people who literally only see one agent. They feel confident enough that this is the agent for them. Some sort of B2C survey of your clients, as you said, when it does hit the marketplace. That would be a fascinating statistic certainly to come back to Kerfuffle with, because that's exactly what you'd expect, though, isn't it? Realistically, people are that perception has always been bullshit, or for as long as I can remember, that lazy valuers will say, "Oh, we lost that one. There was a horde of other people out there." People have been so time poor for so long; they don't want, with a few exceptions, 2 or 3 feels like the max for anyone. So the more you can minimize and stop that wastage of time is going to help everyone out.
If we can, so one of the best things that I've ever heard us say about us, other than yesterday, a guy doing what have the Romans ever done for us about HomeSearch for us, which was the funniest thing that I've ever read. Thank you, Ian. He said to me, he's like, what the system allows me to do is operate in the way that I want to operate. So genuinely talking to people one-to-one earlier in the process, so that they know who I am and what I'm all about when they need me, because I know I'm going to make more money and I'm going to sell more houses doing it that way. The interesting thing that you said, Sean, about talking to those people earlier is that, and this is whether it's to do with HomeSearch or otherwise, but this is just something for agents to remember about why it's important to actually keep in touch with people when they're not moving, is that is the best opportunity to scale referrals and recommendations. Somebody doesn't have had to have used you to be able to refer you. If you show them a great service and you ask them questions and you listen to them and you say please and thank you, you've earned the right to say, do you know anyone else? You just shut up. Invariably, everybody knows somebody, particularly now, right?
You'll know him well from the old country, Sam. James Crocker went over at Marshall White, an absolute leviathan in terms of
best agent in the country.
Yeah, and because of that element where he's spoken to people for 20, 25 years, literally lucky enough to sit in on a session with him. And I was waiting for all the clever scripts and they just never came. But it was just that consistency, relevance. And he made the point that there was plenty of people who, still hadn't moved, and certainly moved with him. But the amount of referrals just by being seen as that helpful agent, more than validated staying in contact with them over that long period. And I think that's exactly where we've got to take ourselves away from, isn't it? Is we do suffer from such short-termism in this country. The old lazy saying used to be about the Japanese look to the next, we look for the next fiscal quarter, and they're looking for the next quarter of a century. But for an estate agency, especially where the bullshit statistic where somebody moves every 7 years, that is not what the statistics tell us anymore, do they? So if in parts of the country like Chester, people are moving on average every 20 years, get used to it. That's the demographic. That's the life cycle. That's the route of exploration that you need to tap into. Otherwise, you're not matching up the right approach, are you, with the behaviours?
Correct. Agents have got to stop. And I'm sorry that I tout the profession by just saying agents there, but there are a number of agents that have got to stop thinking that a transaction is an exchange, be it in sales or lettings. It is a referral opportunity. And so don't think about how often people move every 7 years. Think about how many people know somebody who moves every year. And if that doesn't, and that coupled with a bit of relevant information from a pretty affordable, intuitive data system, wink, if that doesn't give you confidence to pick up the phone and just have a conversation with somebody, then go and do something else,
Exactly.
Genuinely. Stop ruining it for everybody else.
So what have you learned over the last few months then, Sam? Obviously, it's been a challenging period, but on the one hand, that's left you and your little development elves to, I imagine, just lock down and do an unprecedented amount of development that simply probably wouldn't have been possible previously. So what have you learned over the last few months?
That business is tough inherently, and that even good ideas people are closed to. But again, it's because they're busy. We say to people all the time, everybody's got stuff going on. We cannot interrupt that. We've got to be better than that. We've got to be showing them what it is. We've learned that there are more agents, I think, than ever. And interestingly, I've got mates in Melbourne and Sydney and Brizzy who are the same thing. They're looking for stuff now. That what lockdown did for them is they had to stop doing open homes. So suddenly private viewings, which we raised our noses at being these open home loving Aussies, right? They were like, you can actually do pretty well, just one-on-one viewings. And so
I'm, as usual, making inappropriate jokes. I did point out to some of our Aussie friends that it took a pandemic to make their system as inefficient as ours.
Weirdly though, they still saw results, so it challenged beliefs there, I think. But what lockdown allowed the industry to do is probably in 3 months move forward 3 years. We recognise that I've never worked from home. I never actually thought that I'd be productive from home. I was forced to be, and so were our people, and everyone's been incredible. I think the industry has learned that you need to, particularly now where you don't want to be showing houses to people who potentially are just looking for their first time out, and you need to ask those questions of, are you? So they've learned that qualification is asking more questions at that point and getting to know somebody more. I think technology, I would say this, running a technology business, but it plays its part, but it shouldn't replace this. The three of us are interacting now. It would have been cool if we were all sitting in a room bantering, but this is the next best thing, and it's probably what we're going to all have to get better at over time. And I think that it's forced the industry forward there. I've learned that setting up feeds is a horrible experience. And everybody says to you at the start, and you said this to me, you're just like, it's a nightmare, it's a shit show. And I was like, God, it can't be that hard. We do some pretty cool stuff. We've literally got a team of 15 data scientists. And I was like, the data comes in the format. It's the same format. Everyone says they use the same format. They don't. Every CRM is different. Every client within that CRM is different. It is a pain in the ass, and it's a really slow process.
I'm the king of I told you so. So let me
So that's a nightmare. That's our biggest challenge at the moment. We've got 9,500 branches still to go, and we put on about 45 a day on a really good day. So it's a challenge.
Yeah, it's one of those nice problems to have, though, isn't it? Better than the alternative. And I'll talk to you in a minute on this, Sam, because I'm just going to ask, what does the future look like? But Sean, what do you hope to see? How do you hope to see HomeSearch develop over the coming years? Do you see this as being just a supplier to the business or a true partner with the business?
Well, definitely a partner with the business, but more importantly, I just think it's good for the consumers out there to have that information. So I think there's going to be, the customer. I mean, the customer for HomeSearch is the agent, but ultimately it's the buyers and sellers out there that I want it to be the go-to place for them to find everything they need, not just a list of properties that are for sale, but they can literally find everything out about every property with their neighbour's house. I found when I was in America, you could find out so much more about, a person or a property, by just typing into Google. And I don't know why we're a little bit behind in this country, but having that go-to place where everyone just goes, right, I want to find out about the neighbour's house, the house down the road, why is, their garden a bit bigger, so I just think it would be the go-to place, and I think it would be good for the agents as well to be part of that and to have that information. So there's just the more information we can have added in one place, and I don't know what the future holds, but I would love to see some sort of integration with the whole conveyancing process and lending process to speed up transactions. I've got no idea whether that's something that Sam's got in mind, but it would make a massive difference to our industry if we could have something like that.
If you can get conveyancers to answer my phone calls, I'll ask the question.
And Sam, from your point of view, what do you what's in it for you? I mean, you've got enough on your plate at the moment, but have you got other aspirations going forwards? What you apart from the idea that Sean just gave you, subject to the kerfuffle 15%.
We'll sort that out. You and I always have the underhanded, under-table agreements. Ours is similar to what Sean says. We've got to grow the public platform so that it delivers more value than it is today to an agent. It makes sense. Again, whether you're listing for free or whether you're paying for the network, there's got to be more value than there is. Like tomorrow has to deliver more value today. Today is better than yesterday. So we've got some ideas on that revolves around experience for the consumer. And changing the way that they actually use the system. We built it in a certain way because if we made it too crazy to start with, people would have been like, a bit like my mum when something new comes out, like, I don't know what that is. So, she always drives the same way from A to B, even though it's like the longer way. Consumer behavior, human behavior is incredibly difficult to change. You can't do it all at once. It has to be step by step. So we're meticulous and we think we have a strategy and a process of how we can start to evolve that with the right people. So that's sort of step one, and that kicks off end of this month, which is cool. The pro platform's got a few things to go. So we were tying a few cool little loose ends off in terms of additional lead gen, different reporting features that were quite important, and some prospecting stuff. And then we decided to build a public platform in the middle of it. So they'll all be completed and out to the market by start of November. And then we will just, I guess, and again, it's probably not what agents want here, but we'll look to grow the business. We want to be working with as many agents as we can with our paid tools. If all they want to do is use us as an alternative to list their stock, we're great for that. But the real value comes from the stuff that Sean's been talking about today. And then, we have some other plans, which partnerships are important to us. So there are, you mentioned one before, they don't know I'm going to call them, but I'm going to call Moneypenny and say hello, because they have the reputation that is what we aspire to be. And so there's
just given that data underpins absolutely everything, or should underpin everything there, isn't it? I can't think, whenever I'm thinking about, so when I talk to somebody on one of these or we have a conversation, I'm trying to think who else there in that, again, bit of a wanky phrase, supplier ecosystem, should it naturally fit in. It's harder with you, because actually it's really a case of who shouldn't be talking to you. On the face of it, even if they're doing traditional services like telephony or print, everything else, ultimately the interesting content and everything is driven by that data and information that you're distilling. So, again, it's I don't know how big your dev team or how big it's got to be, but it's pretty exciting for you.
Yeah, one of the things that we have to have ready soon is we want a pretty robust API that whoever is the right person or company to partner with for the client. So CRMs are an obvious example.
Yes.
Now, if Sean wants to get the most value from HomeSearch and the most value from the network, he shouldn't have to log into HomeSearch to get it. it should be there in whatever CRM he uses. So that sort of stuff will come.
CRMs are the source of truth. We can fight against this whatever we want to there, and they usually end up being a bit of a bun fight between a third party and a CRM, because the CRMs do all this, don't they? We're the important partner in all this. I do sense that things are changing. Obviously, foundations, Resi have just come out with their very interesting one. MRI have got a great API. You've got the Agent OS guys who for years have preached, obviously, open access, as well as many, many others. And it does seem that we are at finally, from when I just mentioned the oldest one of all. I spoke to Sean, showing how shit a salesperson I was, probably 17, 18 years ago, trying to convince him to move away from Solex. And the issue back then was, good luck, no one's ever got to the data. We're there now seeing that change. It's not happening quick enough, but it's got to be, hasn't it? That the agents have as close to a single sign-on as possible, because the minute you start putting more steps in the chain, just like with anything else, it means stuff doesn't get completed or done, and that's a challenge for tech in general, not just in our industry.
Yes, for us, like success for us so far has always looked like an agent getting to work every day, and they use their emails, their CRM, and HomeSearch, and a phone, and that's what enables them to do their job well. And HomeSearch is great, but if they could literally access all of our data through their CRM as well, it makes their life easier, which actually means that we add more value to their business. So that to me makes a lot of sense. So, but we need to make sure that our API is as plug and play as possible. So that's one of sort of the core missions and where we're going there too.
There is a lot of different, you can put API on the toolkit, if you like, or on the web page, but there's a whole difference in terms of capability and deliverability, isn't there, from companies? So
it's just like the feeds. You'll say you have your off-the-shelf API and you can plug and play with everyone, and then it'll be like, but can you do this and do that? And actually we send it and so I would imagine I've oversimplified, and if our CTO Gil was watching this, he'll probably have had a heart attack and he'll come and kick. He's like ex-Israeli Air Force weapons systems engineer, so he'll come in here and just like stare at me and be like, "What did you just say?"
That sounds fair.
He's an intense guy.
Well, you've had the haircut now. There's a lot of alpha male stuff going on there, which of course I don't need to worry about in my little world. Sam, before we go, obviously you've been really, really kind enough to put on a deal on the table for our Kerfuffle members. While I knock it up on there, do you want to just detail that for everyone? Sean, sorry, I'm not getting rid of you, by the way. Just for the moment.
We have a deal with you guys, and shout out to Sarah and Fam for sort of pushing and twisting my arm, being like, what else can you do on this? For everyone who does follow Kerfuffle, Whaley's on holiday all the time, and those two do everything. They're unreal. So everybody who is a Kerfuffle member can access our complete product, which is called our network, for £155 a month, regardless of where we are, and we'll keep that on the table till the end of 2020. So the way that it works is the first 1,000 branches pay 155, the next 1,000 will pay 205, the 1,000 after that 255, because the product will evolve over time. That price is fixed for you guys until January 1st, 2025. So there is visibility on your pricing for the next 4.5 years. There's no contract for you guys as well. And we will also give you any direct mail that you send at cost, which is 40% discount. So the idea is, and I think Sean hit the nail on the head, to get that 10x ROI, you've got to be prospecting with the system. You can't just be reactive with it. So if we can help your members by effectively making it cost 25p for a co-branded HomeSearch and Newman's letter, or I think it's 36p for a Newman's letter, you can't get it better, and it works.
I told you, we're taking it back. It's not just one more listing. It's 4 listings, as Sean spoke about before. There'll be other stories. Look, your 5, as ever, I encourage everybody, go to the landing page, have a look for obviously HomeSearch on Kerfuffle, see what those named agents are doing. As Sam said before, these aren't anonymized morons from property industry are having a pop. Everyone who goes on Kerfuffle has to be able to back up what they're saying. And I think, unsurprisingly, Sam, I had a check just before we looked up, you're 5-star rated again. So that says, as much as people can do they're going to do their homework on you. So Look, thank you very much. That's really kind of you. Again, always appreciative of anything you're doing for our Kerfuffle members. If you are interested, guys, just go to the inquire button on the landing page, or get in contact with Sam directly, and obviously just let him know you're a Kerfuffle member. Sean, thank you very much. Always love hearing straight from the horse's mouth, as it were, there, but it gives just such another aspect, obviously, of what's going on. And how you seeing the market at the moment, Sean? All right.
Well, it's so good, so good, so good. But although I have to say, exchanges last month for us was diabolical. We're still seeing delays in the transactions, which hopefully will result in a bumper exchange month in September. But I seem to keep saying that every month. It's going to be next month. So, you know, the conveyancing, you know, whether it's like a lot of solicitors or lenders have got their staff still on furlough. I hope they're all back on the 1st of September, and surveyors are a bit behind. But that's the only, you know, problem area at the moment, the delay in the sales going through. But listings and sales are up across the board, really, and so really pleasing.
Well, don't worry anyway, because Sam's committed. He's gonna solve the whole issue of conveyancing and sales progression next year. Super. Come on. Once he's knocked over the portals, they're not a portal, they're a network. Thank you very much. It's dead exciting. Always listening to companies like you come in, shake the place up, and just listen to agents. I think it's absolutely fantastic. So couldn't wish you any better luck with it. And obviously, keep in touch. Let us know if you've got any developments. We'd love to have you back on the show.
Thank you, man. And Sean, thank you. I appreciate it, man. I know an hour is a lot out of your day, so
no, that's a pleasure. Thank you for, you know, being so supportive and helping us and helping the industry. So I'm really, you know, it's a pleasure to
stop the loving, guys. Stop the loving.
No, you hang up.
You, Simon.
I'm taking it private now.
Thanks, mate.
Good to